Neverness to Everness just released, and the internet doesn't really know what to do with it. Usually when a big gacha game drops, everyone just kinda agrees that it is either the next big thing or a total disaster. But I have never seen reactions so messy and polarizing than the ones about NTE. There are people who genuinely love it, calling 𝗖𝗍𝗆 the most refreshing world they have stepped into in years, and then you have the people who absolutely hate it, frustrated by the stiff combat or the way the story and animations jump around, spiking up their cortisol, as the kids nowadays would say. And then there is the cultured side of the community, the people who are mostly just gooning over the first-person camera views and the character skins. I don't expect anything less from the people who play gacha games. I mean, it's just part of the genre at this point. But then there is the discovery. You have players finding hidden references that look like they came straight out of an anime, or stumbling into a horror game while trying to finish a simple mission. And in a weird way, the game seems to discover the players too. Between the talkative protagonist and the strange, self-aware jokes, it feels like the game is looking back at you, waiting to see how you will react to its unserious nature. It is a lot to take in. It is messy, it is loud, but it is surprisingly very generous. To understand why everyone is so split, we have to look past the very attractive waifus and see what is actually happening under the mask of this city. If you want to see more content from me, feel free to smash the like button and subscribe. Hit the notification bell icon to stay updated with my videos. Without wasting any more of your time, let's just get right into it. Most gacha games follow a very specific blueprint. It would surprise you, but these gacha games aren't exactly known to be the most original. Something like an amnesiac main character. Guess what? NTE does that too. You get into the world of gacha games and they drop you into a big empty field of grass, wondering what you're doing. I mean, these are just common tropes. 𝗖𝗍𝗆, however, is entirely different. Instead of rolling hills, you have a dense vertical city that actually feels like a city. It is the small things that sets the immersion. You can walk into a skyscraper, hop into an elevator, and go straight into the roof without hitting a single loading screen. They have added things like coffee shops and even a working taxi service, both of which you can have as a job. Massive day for the unemployed, you can have a job at NTE. Yippee! And all of this, it just makes the world feel like a sandbox. NTE lets you play around and interact with the environment instead of just following a narrow path. I mean, obviously it's not a true sandbox like a Minecraft, but what we're having in NTE is what open world games should have been. This is literally the game we have all been waiting for. Most gachas are very polite too. I meant that in a way that you follow the rules and fight the monsters. In NTE, if you're feeling a bit chaotic, if you have that one intrusive thought in your head, the noise that just won't stop talking, you can punch an actual NPC civilian, get into a car chase with police officers, and eventually find yourself sitting in a literal jail cell. How exciting, am I right? Going to prison. I had no idea that NTE had that dog in them, merging a crime simulator game with a character collector game. It is fully fleshed out too. Believe me, there is an actual story in this prison section. There is multiple ways you can escape. Some guy even found out you can parkour your way out of it. This game is probably the realest gacha game out there. But the most interesting part of this launch hasn't been the combat. It is the things you consider distractions. I have seen more people talking about the dating simulator part of the game than the actual plot. Whether that's hand-holding, picture-taking, or even ear cleaning, man, this game has it all. Right now, the character pool is a bit limited, but imagine the possibilities. This game is a literal harem simulator. It's insane. Some people are going for the city tycoon part too, trying to be rich as fast as possible, literally sweat speedrunning, gathering in-game currency to buy the most expensive car in the game on day one. I mean, someone like 𝗏𝗆Master is Asian. I can see why money is very important to him even in game, but other than that, I have no idea what drives these people. Unemployment? or genuine enjoyment of the game. Is NTE really that good? Whether you say yes or no to that question, it at least appeals to the casuals a lot, because these things are low stakes activities. They don't help you beat a boss necessarily, and they don't make your character stronger at all. They are just for fun. In a genre that usually feels like it's a second job, an obligation to farm for long hours just for a chance to participate in the end game, people are finding that they don't necessarily want to save the world right now. They just want to live in it. They want to have dates. They want to race. They want to run a coffee shop. It is a weirdly human way to play a video game, and that is one of the ways NTE discovers you.
How's the game other than Takedo? I'm loving it, man. I am it's like exposing, I guess, my filthy casual in me. I didn't know I had it in me until I started playing this fucking game. I'm having a great deal of fun just fucking off, Jenna, to be honest.
But for all the polish and quality in the world design, the actual feel of playing the game is where things get a little bit more complicated. If you're coming from a game like, let's say, Wuthering Waves, the combat in NTE might feel a bit stiff. It is polished, sure, but it lacks impact, like a lot of impact. In NTE, it can feel a bit floaty. Most of the time, it feels like I'm hitting sponges, like my attacks actually do nothing. There is no oomph to that hit. It is also missing the flow, the smoothness of the moves, the way it connects to the next attacks. It is a repetitive feeling that doesn't quite give you that shot of adrenaline you would expect from an action game. But of course, for some, this is a non-issue. For others, it is a bit numbing though. The weird part for me is that this stiffness doesn't apply to the cars. The racing and driving feel exceptional. It feels great. The difference in experience is hella weird. You will have a blast drifting through a corner at 100 miles an hour while it's raining, but the second you hop out of the car to fight a group of enemies, the game feels like it slows down. But then there is the talk about optimization. Right now, there is a massive divide. On one hand, you have mobile players saying the game is well optimized, running at a smooth 60 frames per second on max settings too. On the other hand, PC players are struggling with stuttering.
I have had a single crash happen in my game, but overall the game's been running pretty damn smoothly for you, or for me, except for some of stutters and stuff like that normally happen when it needs to load shaders.
Stuttering is when the game hitches or freezes for a split second, usually because the engine is struggling to keep up. This is especially true if you turn on things like RTX or ray tracing, technologies that make the lighting look realistic but are incredibly heavy for a computer to handle. Personally, for me, it never fully lagged, but it does sometimes stutter when I take a sharp turn while I'm driving, or maybe I go in a different area like those anomaly domains. But it doesn't really ruin the experience for me, so I'm all good. Maybe a small feedback for the devs, but yeah, for me, I'm okay. I'm having fun. But we can't talk about the feel of the game without mentioning the first-person POV toggle. You can switch to your character's eyes at any time, and it changes the vibe completely. During certain missions, it turns the game into a genuine horror experience. The ambient noises, the sounds of the environment around you become way more terrifying when you can't see what is behind you. Of course, this being a gacha game, there is not gonna be jump scares, and you know what? Half, if not most of the community is just using the camera to look down at their characters and say, "Whoa, huge boobas." It is a gimmick, but it is a gimmick that is giving the game a lot of personality it otherwise wouldn't have. I was hoping that the battles would be done in first person as well, like Cyberpunk maybe, or even Wuthering Waves has done something similar to this for a bit, but that is not the case, and I'm a bit disappointed. But it is what it is. It is not like I'll be using it often anyway. These really good things about the game doesn't come out of nowhere though. You have to remember who is actually behind this. Hata Studio has been living under the shadow of their last game, Tower of Fantasy, for a while now. That game was known for a lot of things, and most of them weren't great. Things like bugs, weird balance, power creep, very bad launch. I mean, look at it now. Most people probably considered it dead already. So with NTE, they had a point to prove. They walked into this launch knowing people were waiting for them to mess this up. And within the first few hours, it looked like they had. Hota launched the Chinese version a week before the global version. The Chinese launch had some bugs, so the developers did what gacha devs do best. They apologized by throwing a massive compensation package at the players, a free 5-star selector and an extra 10 pulls. The players in China are probably happy with the rewards, right? But what about the global community? Alarm bells started ringing. The fear was that since global players didn't have to suffer through the early bugs, Hota was going to withhold those rewards. Historically, in games like Black Beacon, when the Chinese server gets better rewards than the global servers, the global players feel like second-class citizens, and the game immediately dies, at least from the global side. And let me tell you, these people were not playing, like literally too. They were literally ready to boycott the game before they even downloaded it. But then Hota did the exact opposite of what everyone expected. There was no need to make the PR explanation for why the servers were getting different treatment. They just gave global players the exact same rewards, 5-star selector and extra pulls. It was nothing but an instant resolution. In one move, they completely neutralized the drama and established a precedent. And honestly, the timely response from Super 𝗖់𝗆𝗆 Studio made me quite hopeful for the future of the game. But surely no company beats Kuro Games, am I right? But who knows? But I have seen some people looking at the day one revenue reports and calling the game a flop. These people see that NTE didn't make as much money on its first day as the massive giants like Genshin, and they assume the game is dying. But they are ignoring the fact that NTE did something very unusual. They removed the 50-50 system. Usually in these games, you spend your money for a 50% chance to get the character you actually want. If you lose, you get a character you probably don't need. By getting rid of that system and giving away top-tier character selectors for free, NTE is choosing to be known as a player-friendly game over an easier way to get revenue. They would rather have 1 million happy players who stay for a year than a few thousand angry ones who spend a lot of money on day one and then quit forever. It is blatantly obvious that they are trying to buy back the trust they lost years ago. Whether that gamble actually pays off in the long run is the real question. And then there is the story, which is, to put it mildly, a bit of a mess. It is a very specific kind of mess though. Some players called it an assault to the senses. And I think that is a fair way to describe the animation side of things. I mean, it's just a lot of, and I do mean a heck ton of impact frames. So much boom boom animation, boing boing, ka-chow everywhere. And it can be a bit overstimulating, but not for me. Me with my brain rotted TikTok brain can handle it pretty well, no problem. The pacing though is also apparently another problem. In NTE, the pacing feels incredibly bad. Sometimes it feels like the developers are scared that if something explosive doesn't happen every 5 seconds, you're going to get bored and uninstall the game. So they rush the pacing so much, most people don't even know what's going on with the story. And to be honest, I'm on the same boat. It creates this weird contrast because the game looks so high-end. In the beginning part definitely looks serious, but the actual content is completely unserious. But well, I think if you have played it long enough, you would probably realize that this game doesn't really mind being a joke. For example, and let me explain, after the very tense outbreak-looking beginning arc, suddenly you're being driven to a meeting by a glowing purple hand, literal just a hand, that is apparently a rapper. Or your crew will take a wholesome, somewhat formal picture and then randomly strike a JoJo pose, and the entire art style changes for 1 frame just for the joke. Don't get me started on the facial expressions because there are a ton. I'm not complaining, I'm just stating the facts. It is all over the place. It is definitely not for everyone, but it gives the world a sense of playfulness and a little bit magical. This is the kind of game for me, you know? I kind of like it a little bit magical sometimes. Now, thankfully, the main character is there to keep things grounded. In most gachas, you play as a silent protagonist, a character who doesn't talk, so nonchalant that you can imagine yourself in their shoes. But in NTE, the MC actually has a soul. They talk, they have a personality, and they have a no-nonsense attitude. They react to the weirdness of the city the same way we do.
Would you like to apply for a debit card?
Sorry, I don't need one.
No, I'm not selling anything. I am...
I still don't.
The game isn't winning people over with deep, complex story or history. It is winning them over through chemistry, the way the characters interact, and make the player feel like they actually belong in Hetero. It is simple, it is effective, and in a game this weird, it is the only thing keeping the whole experience from falling apart. So what is the real takeaway here? It is clear that Neverness to Everness isn't actually trying to be the most polished gacha game on the market. It is not interested in beating the industry giants at their own game of perfect frame-by-frame fighting. Instead, it is trying to be its own game. In a lot of ways, NTE feels like a multiple different games stitched together. In some areas, like the awkward story pacing or the floaty combat, it feels like a prototype, a rough early version of an idea that hasn't been fully figured out yet, which in my opinion is completely fine, considering this is the launch version and I've played multiple games that improved significantly since launch. The feeling is also supported by their wins in other areas, like the world design and the pure generosity of the rewards. It feels like a masterpiece, you know? So much so that the flaws actually get covered by this good things. It feels like a masterpiece. It is rare to see a developer be this generous or willing to give away so much for free right at the start and respond to criticism in such a timely manner. But we have to look at the long game. The real success of NTE won't be decided by how much money it made on day one. It is going to be measured by whether Hata can keep up the pace to fix the bugs and respond to the community criticism. They have managed to buy a massive amount of goodwill, and now they have to spend that trust wisely by focusing on optimization, making the game run smoother, and refining the narrative, the way the story is told. But you can have different opinions, in which case you can comment down below. But that is all from me, 𝗖់𝗍𝗆𝗆, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.